Now, in what you can call a win within the chambers of the United Opposition, Marjan Marjan has finally exited the IEBC. The removal of Marjan Marjan has now been defended by the Chief Commissioner, that is the chairperson of the Commission, Honorable Ethekon, saying that it was timely and it was long overdue. This was because Marjan Marjan was supposed to leave somewhere around March, just a few months into the election period, and now Mr. Ethekon says that that particular move is necessary to have come right now on mutual basis to give them room to actually replace the position of Marjan Marjan by another official within a long tenure period, or within a sufficient time period before the elections are held, of course next year in the second Tuesday of the August of 2027. But let's put more context to it. Wasi wa United Opposition wamekuwa wakipush sana for Marjan Marjan to go. This has been the basis of conversation within the United Opposition camp. Kalonzo amekuwa everywhere akimake any statement concerning IBC. Amekuwa akiongelelea this one guy, Marjan Marjan, so much that up to the last briefing or the last addressing the nation that was done by the principals of the United Opposition pamoja, the consistent message that Kalonzo was saying, alikuwa anasema Marjan Marjan lazima aende. And other individuals like Eugene Wamalwa have also chipped in this particular conversation saying Marjan Marjan lazima aende. So we want to understand at this particular episode of the People's Mirror, did Marjan Marjan go because it was convenient for him to go within the arrangement of the IEBC ndo awachie time for another CEO to come in, ama did Marjan Marjan go because the United Opposition called for it? And if the United Opposition could have called for something like that, and then the response comes immediately with Marjan Marjan leaving the IBC, is it the will of the IBC that Marjan Marjan leaves, or is this a systematic play to entice the United Opposition demands right now so that more demands and more reforms within the IBC are not called for, if there is any reforms to call for? But first, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time interacting with our channel, which is the People's Mirror, please hit the subscribe button so that stories like this do not escape you from the Kenyan political scene. Now let's start this story from the top. Kuna a group of wase wenye wanaona the result of the exit of Marjan Marjan as a success story for Kalonzo Musyoka. Why? Because Kalonzo Musyoka has been on the trail of Marjan Marjan for quite some time, and these are just a series of news bites of when Kalonzo Musyoka is talking about Marjan Marjan before we bring it back here at the Mirror and we analyze what did he do and why did the United Opposition want him out so much. So let's just trace a few of the news bites when Honorable Kalonzo and other principals of the United Opposition are talking about this guy, the CEO or former of the IEBC, that's in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Honorable Marjan Marjan.
Pesa kwa vijana, tunasema vijana wetu wachukue hizo pesa. It is not enough to start an industry, but it is something we all support. Remember Uhuru Kenyatta hadi kazi mitaani na vitu kama hivi. Lakini musije mukababaishwa na mambo kama hayo. The country has rejected William Ruto. Hii ni ukweli. And I must mention here, sasa ameanza hata kuthreaten business people. Wale watu ambao wanataka kusaidia chama, kusaidia wale wengine, right? Mtu anapigiwa simu na polisi, anaambiwa tunaona ulienda kwa Kalonzo nyumbani, ulienda kufanya nini? That is how desperate they have become. Because I have also the freedom to receive my visitor. Ama sivyo? Yani mtu akionekana amempigia Kalonzo simu, now Cyber Crimes Act hiyo wanafuata. Hey, simu Kalonzo lona na simu ne nani nini? Ona matata chao William Ruto no yanukie. Sema one time. Wangapi wanasema one time? Asanteni. Hey, my friends here are going to talk to you. Nondo to your musi. Ikanama mutavi mwekedo na we are saying we had agreed mtu anaitwa Marjan. My colleague Eugene was a member of NADCO, and he was so clever. Alikataa kuweka saini. Hakuweka saini. Nikajaribu kumshawishi, sijui alienda Rwanda, sijui wapi. Aliona hii shida itakuja. We agreed that the CEO of IBC anaitwa Marjan When there was no commission, he moved with a lot of speed, akaleta watu mnaitwa Smartmatic, akarenew contract yao, wale watu waliibia Raila kura. Wakasaini kila kitu, makamishna wakija, ile tume mpya hawajui, wakapata kwamba he has already renewed those contracts. An illegal thing, because we were not supposed to do it. Pamoja na aliyekuwa naitwa ni advisor sasa wa Ruto State House, Professor Gulie. So we are saying Marjan cannot, hawezi kusimamia uchaguzi ujao, asiyo, because atakuwa amebakisha sijui 1 year up to next year. So the best thing, hii commission imuunde, apatiwe whatever balance yake, atoke, because he is the problem. We cannot have free and fair election with a person called Marjan, who is already renewed Smartmatic, amerenew kila kitu. Baito mwewo ndo nasi kwa hui nye naiti mungu kwa tanyamumbia bahati nzaikone iba hata wakakwaikwa toka nzaikone tiwo iba hane nzaikone nenda mumbaki kishia nyene kwate mundume mpia inye muko umezia indele alama kwa ze muko umezia nzele kwa yolo tena ndugu huyu Rigiji aogopi. Ndio nikasema kule Nyandarua, I wish I'd met Rigiji before William Ruto met him. Kuna mtu ambaye roho safi na mama pia anamuombea. It is amazing. I enjoy this fellowship apart from anything else, because we talk freely. Hatuna woga, hatuna nini. Kwa hivyo wengine wanaogopa hii, wanaona watu watafika, wataenda kuamua. Not definitely, we are going your own. I must tell William Ruto that a man has to endure the natural consequences of his own actions. Now that's a very basic principle. Kumwelimisha tu kidogo.
Now Kalonzo takes it from the Nyota program, of course, saying that wameambia vijana wachukue hiyo do, but that should not entice them to vote any other way, akisema hiyo do is not even fit enough to start businesses, which is a story of another day, because President William Ruto shortly replied to this particular statement. Pia bring in story of mathematics, and this was very important, because when Kalonzo was talking about mathematics, this is the same thing that Eugene has been talking about. So this is the story. Commissioners are because for some time IBC did not have a full composition of its commissioners. Of course, you remember Chebukati, Alidedi, and other commissioners left the IBC. So there was no full composition of the IBC. But the chief executive officer of IBC alibaki, and the name of the guy is called Marjan Marjan. So what happened is that during this harakatia, the commissioners being looked for so that a new IBC can be formed, what Marjan Marjan was doing beneath the shadows was actually renewing contracts illegally. So by the time kina Ethicon are coming into the IBC space, wanapata these contracts are already sealed for 2027, and they were entered into by Marjan Marjan in absence of this particular commissioner. So that has been the story. Kalonzo amekuwa akisema that the biggest problem ni Marjan Marjan, and as you can hear from Kalonzo himself, he had his facts right. He was saying that this guy had a period of like around 1 year before he exit the entire IBC stage, and so they saw him unfit kukua hapo to oversee that particular election. So these stories went on because even Eugene himself made statements about Marjan Marjan. We want to play in Eugene's statements and further statements of Kalonzo before we come back to what did the chief commissioner, the chairperson of the IBC, Honorable Ethicon, say about Marjan Marjan, and what has now been said by Lawyer Ndegwa, who actually wrote letters to Marjan Marjan seeking clarity kuhusu hii stuff ya kuprokiwa tenders za IBC materials in absence of the commissioners. Now this guy Eugene Wamalwa has also been very very loud on this issue, but here hajakuwa akiongelea Marjan Marjan directly. His basis has always been this mathematics, this particular company from Venezuela yenye itakuwa ina produce these documents to oversee the election. So as he had his problems with Jose Camargo, as he had his problems with the Venezuelans, primarily alikuwa na shida na Marjan Marjan, because he was saying it is only through Marjan Marjan that these people get access into the Kenyan space. So let's listen to his statements before, because if you listen to the statements of Eugene and the statements of Kalonzo and the decision of the IBC, you can be quick to say that perhaps the IBC made that particular decision based on them. But is that the truth? We'll bring for you the truth shortly. shortly, but first, let us listen into Eugene.
For this country to have a free and fair election, the concerns raised by the opposition must be addressed. We are saying mathematics must go. We are saying huyu mtu anaitwa Marjan must go. Ameonekana na Kamago. Huyu JB amekuwa attorney general, amekuwa waziri, akisema ya kwamba ana ushahidi bwana Kamago alionekana kwenye ikulu. Ana ushahidi another fraudster Chevayo ameonekana na bwana Ruto. Tunajua yale wako wanapanga. Mbiu ya Mugambo ikilia kuna nini? Kuna jambo. So msione tu tunapiga kelele. Usipoziba ufa, wahenga walisema, utajenga nini? Ukuta. Tunajaribu kuziba ufa, to correct things. And bwana Ruto, we have time to do it. Lakini wasipotusikiza, they say the writing is on the wall. So hilo ndio nataka tuseme, tuko pamoja, muendelee kuregister vijana wetu na mshikilie huyu bwana Rigiji. He is being targeted kabisa. Bwana Rigiji nimeambiwa Gitugi inamaanisha ile miti inashikilia nyumba. Siyo ni kama Gitugi. Mumshikilie vizuri. Mshikilie mama Karua vizuri. Huyu JB na msiambiwe ni ukabila Karua na Rigiji na huyu jamaa JB Muturi kushikana. Ninyi mliposhikana mkaingiza Ruto alikuwa Mkikuyu. Sasa anaweza semaje kama leo mnashikana mseme ni Wamalwa ama huyu Kalonzo, hiyo itakuwa ni ukabila?
Now, Eugene's take might go into politics a bit, but just taking it back to Marjan Marjan, ngori yake pia ni mathematics. He's saying that Marjan Marjan alionekana na Kamago, and of course JB Muturi is a witness to this. Now, here's the political comment. So, what is going to happen to the tenders that have already been secured under the authorship of Marjan Marjan? Kwa sababu ku step out as the CEO might be one thing, but if the structures are already in place for the move or the mission of 2027, then nothing stops the structures, even if Marjan Marjan himself is not in the scene. And perhaps for the guys that were involved with this Marjan Marjan guy in procuring these particular items outside the commissioners, what they wanted was just the items in place and not Marjan Marjan. And so that is the reason why Marjan has found it very comfortable. He's saying, okay, I have 1 year left. Okay, the united opposition, they're coming to the table, and the only thing they're saying is that they don't want Marjan to be on the seat. Okay, then let me walk away. The way that Marjan Marjan has left the scene, or has even exit this particular platform of the united opposition few days after the conference between the united opposition and of course the IBC were had, and he was part of the concerns, is so convenient and so smooth that you don't want to just rub it through and say that he's just appealing to the call of the united opposition or even appealing to the call of his fellow commissioners. This was planned to the dot, so that if it gets to a point where Marjan Marjan is questioned, then the best thing for Marjan Marjan to do is Marjan Marjan to exit rather. And before we come to that particular conclusion that seems as a very convenient play for the organizers of this particular mathematics deal, let us listen to what Kalonzo said when they were actually talking about or addressing the nation after walitoka to have this conversation with the IBC. And then after that, let us listen into what Ethekon said ikifika kwa how Marjan Marjan left. Then Ndegwa will reveal for you the full information, because he wrote these particular letters to the confidential information that Marjan Marjan himself refused to provide when the united opposition was asking for it. Na hivyo utaona that the way Marjan Marjan is living is so convenient that the united opposition should not take it as a win, even if it seems as a win, because this is one of the answers to the calls that they have been making previously. So on this particular part of the episode, Kalonzo talks about the guy Marjan Marjan, and he makes it very, very clearly that they have a problem with him. But before we make our comments, let's listen to Kalonzo straight.
There is that this is a William Ruto commission, and we gave them the opportunity to prove us wrong. Not us, the whole country. So we were able to raise issues. We have said it openly, that we are very unhappy with the procurement process of the Kim's kits, the discredited Smartmatic organization, discredited worldwide, As you all know by now, the Carmagos and others, and what has happened in Venezuela recently. So they have to give us demonstrable outcomes. So we've agreed we're going to work together and have some technical teams working together in a very transparent, open manner. We reminded them, some of us are seasoned, we will come out again here on behalf of the country and Kenyans if they do not deliver on what you have agreed. But we have decided to give them a chance, an opportunity. We clearly are very unhappy with the CEO. We made it clear to them. Let us see what they are going to do.
Now, that is what Kalonzo said. So this actually fed into the playbook of these guys in a very perfect way. Kalonzo ameenda pale press conference, amesema we have a problem, they are listening. Who do you have a problem with? The CEO. Okay, how much time does the CEO have? Okay, this particular period of time. The influence that Marjan Marjan will have inside the IEBC and this Honorable Gulia that is being accused outside the IEBC, when they have their systems and structures in place, is way much than the influence that they would have inside the IEBC if all eyes and trailblazers were on them. And so this move might come as a reward to the united opposition, but the united opposition should take it with a pinch of salt. It is so convenient being handed in their hands that they should question why it's being given to them. Now, Marjan Marjan ametoka. The commission has made a statement to the effect of why he has left. They are saying, waliona, if he was to retire in March, it would have left them with a very short time to actually replace him with another person. So they got into an arrangement with him and they exited him early so that they have time to replace him with someone else. That is coming from the chairperson of the IEBC himself. But if he was supposed to retire in March, then if the united opposition called for his retirement and he has retired now, it seems like he's retiring for the united opposition. If there was nothing wrong about this Marjan Marjan guy, then he would have stayed in his office until March so as to retire. So more questions are around this guy. But first, let's listen to the official statements that are being made by the commission to understand what is really going on from the commissioner's side.
What I communicated yesterday is the correct position. That we've had discussions and we arrived at a mutually agreeable separation in the interest of the country.
Now that is what Ethicon is saying. They got into a mutual discussion and in the interest of the country, they separated themselves from Marjan Marjan. Okay, convenient. Now let us listen to the guy that has come out gun blazing, revealing information. Ndego anasema that he knows why Marjan Marjan was keeping certain information official. He wrote a letter to Marjan Marjan, but Marjan alimjibu aje that the information that he was actually asking for was confidential. Now you remember, these are information around procurement of ballot tools, which should not be confidential but should be in the public domain. So what was confidential in this particular deal, and is the removal or exit of Marjan Marjan going to make all the wrongs right?
Meddling with the processes of the commission.
How do you know this?
Well, you know, something like procurement you can't hide. And he was intermeddling to the extent that he was executing the functions that are exclusively the preserve of the commissioners. And it was a scheme that was being operationalized to assist the regime in rigging the 2027
Which functions
elections.
are these?
Yes.
Which functions are these you're talking about?
Sorry?
Which functions are these that were
One of the functions that
the
he
commission
did was to operationalize the procurements. And most importantly, the procurement of the election technology. So what we did when we learned about this, that he had intermeddled and he had acted outrageously to the functions of the secretariat, I wrote a letter to him. I was instructed by the United Opposition, led by Wiper Patriotic Front, PLP, People's Liberation Party, Jubilee, led by Fred Matiang'i. I was instructed by DAPK, led by Eugene Wamalwa. I was instructed by DAP, led by Justin Muturi, and equally instructed by DCP, led by Rigathi Gachagua. Okay. So on the 12th of September last year, I did write a very comprehensive letter seeking for information under Article 37 and Section 4, 5, and 6 and 8 of the Access to Information Act, seeking to know whether when the new commissioners came in office, they were able to know or they were able to learn that Mr. Marjan Marjan had interfered and crossed over to executive functions that were pre-served for the commission. One of the things that I sought to know was whether the commissioners conducted a due diligence to understand to the extent to which Marjan Marjan had interfered with the processes of the commission. I cited 2 cases. One of the cases that I cited was the procurement of Smartmatic International company. The framework agreement had expired. But in the absence of the commissioners, Mr. Marjan Marjan went ahead to extend that agreement and that contract. You might want to ask yourself why it is important for us to understand. Number 2, the other question I sought was the status of the voters register. And my inquiry was meant to understand how was the commission preparing to deal with the voters register.
Yeah.
Do you remember during the funeral of a certain captain, I forget his name, Dr. S.K. Masharia raised the question of the integrity of the voters register. In a very comprehensive way, Dr. S.K. Masharia of Royal Media raised that issue. Now, we wanted to know to what extent or how many times can a voters register be audited, and can this audit interfere or affect the integrity of the register? And how many times must it be registered so as to retain its original form and status? Because you understand, if something suffers many amendments or many audits, it changes its character, its status,
Oh yeah, that is what Ndego is talking about. So this guy apparently stayed in office and then extend the contracts of Smartmatics when the commissioners were not there. And these are some of the issues that he did outside the law, because the timeline for that particular contract ilikuwa imeisha. Now, this is the part where we make our political comments, and of course we ask you to leave your thoughts in the comment section. Now, for Marjan Marjan, look at it this way. Was this honest? Was this long overdue, or was this a very strategic move that Marjan Marjan did? If it was an honest way of resigning, then why did he just have to resign after all these issues were already highlighted out by the united opposition? So that imputes a little bit doubt on his honesty, or the honesty of this mutual separation. And if this was long overdue, then why was it not done before? The specific time for his exit was set somewhere in March next year, and so him leaving right now does not actually confirm that this was overdue. Was this strategic? This could have been very strategic to the forces that were, of course, directing Marjan Marjan on how to go about this particular contract, because without that, then you won't say Marjan Marjan wouldn't have even defended his position or defended himself against these particular claims that are being made by the united opposition in avenues like the law, the legal space, the courts, the structures that are provided for within the IBC and things like that. So the way that he has responded when the united opposition is calling is so convenient that should not escape the united opposition's eyesight, or the eyesight of every reasonable Kenyan, including yourself and myself, that there is more to this particular exit. But as it seems and as it stands, Marjan Marjan has exited the IBC as the chief executive officer according to the calls and the demands of the united opposition that they have been rallying in the recent past, and this in the face value seems as a win to the united opposition. Keep it here, the People's Mirror, and of course interact with our other channel, the Civic Lens, for political stories that don't make it here. But stay here for our next episode within the day.